So, about 2 weeks ago, not long after the official reveal of the Nintendo Switch 2, I made a video discussing some of the potential and possibilities about this mouse feature that we know is going to be a part of the Joy-Cons, and they, in my opinion, basically did confirm in that trailer. And if you watch that video, you know that the general approach I took was how these controls, using Joy-Cons as a mouse, might impact Metroid Prime 4 and possibly even make the game better. It was a really fun topic. I obviously like talking about Metroid. It's literally the thing that I feel like I'm on the internet to do for you guys and for fellow Metroid fans. And I also think that the potential of using Joy-Cons as a mouse is both kind of strange for, I think reasons that a lot of us know, but again, also very exciting. And for me, comparing it to my favorite franchise or imagining how it could impact my favorite franchise was a great sort of hook or conduit for me to get into that conversation initially. Now, as of yesterday, there's been kind of an update, so to speak, around this concept of using the Joy-Cons as a mouse for the Switch 2, because suddenly it was revealed that literally yesterday, the day before I'm recording this video, which is February 6th, it turns out that a patent Nintendo filed way back in August of 2023 was officially completed or finalized, granted, again, yesterday on February 6th. And this patent literally shows us that, yes, the Joy-Cons or Joy-Con 2's can be used as a mouse. Like I said, in my opinion, I feel like this was basically already a known fact. And now, suddenly, this is a really big story. It's something that a lot of folks have been talking about, a lot of folks have been covering, tons of YouTube videos. And so I've been sitting here thinking, okay, I made my own 20-minute video about this idea 2 weeks ago. And now everyone else is making videos about it and articles about it and talking about it on social media. Do I really need to make another video on this topic? Do I really need to add my own 2 cents for a second time into this when everyone else is making videos about this? And ultimately I decided, yes, I do. So one thing I do just want to say, and I alluded to it here in the beginning, is that I kind of feel like this already was a confirmed detail based on not only the leaks that came out, a month or two before the Switch 2 was revealed, and everyone started theorizing that the Joy-Cons could be used as a mouse. But again, the trailer basically showed it to us, and that's why in my reaction, I brought it up, holy smokes, the mouse thing basically is confirmed. I talked about it in that Metroid video, and other people have also kind of been talking about it like it was already an assumed fact. So I find it interesting and kind of funny that now, because of these patent images that I'm going to show and we're going to talk about, that came out yesterday, now everyone is jumping on the bandwagon of, oh, it's confirmed, finally we know for sure. And it's like, yes, it's true that Nintendo didn't tell us that these could be used as a mouse before yesterday with these patent images, but again, wasn't it obvious? Everyone was already talking about it like it was confirmed anyway, and now it's confirmed for a second time. So I don't know, not a huge deal, just something I wanted to bring up because I personally believe that this was confirmed when the Switch 2 was revealed. Anywho, let's quickly look through some of these patent images, and they're all very obvious, and you've probably seen them anyway. This first one just shows someone holding the right Joy-Con with their right hand. You put it down with the magnet side connector thingy face down on a desk or a table of some kind. And the interesting thing is, and I'm sure we've all tested this, what this feels like with our own current Joy-Cons, since this idea was proposed. But you've got your R and your ZR buttons that almost act as your left and right click on a regular mouse, but you've also got all of the A, B, X, Y buttons, and you have the analog stick that your thumb gets to control. So it's awkward and it's strange because Joy-Cons are very small. Luckily, the Switch 2 Joy-Cons will be quite a bit bigger. Probably not big enough, but at least they just will be bigger. And hopefully the analog stick will be more improved, because right now the current Joy-Cons, the analog stick sucks. But you see someone holding it like this. Again, we've all tested it ourselves, I'm sure. And so this just shows part of the patent that Nintendo was already thinking about when they created this idea. We see another image of it from the top down. It's just showing a different angle of the same idea. Here again, they're showing us the way I would assume Nintendo expects most people to play, and we would expect most people to play. And hopefully the way Nintendo is assuming developers will make their games, mostly third-party developers, Nintendo already knows how they want to use this. That's why they created it for their console. But this is the kind of thing I think that also becomes a bit of a showcase to other developers, like, hey, this is something you can do with our new console and our new controller. And then, you know, the last image is, I guess, trying to show what happens if you're using both down like they're a mouse. Maybe you can, if you're left-handed, you use the left Joy-Con. If you're right-handed, you use the right. Maybe there are certain games or mini games that use them both face down, like you're using two mouses. I think you still say mice if you're talking about a computer mouse, plural. Either way, these are just some of the patent images that now we've seen that confirms Nintendo is planning to use these as a mouse. So, very cool stuff. And the main, I think, talking point that I wanted to really get into now, after looking over these images real quick, and I guess now we're considering this confirmed. Now everyone knows and believes this is real. Again, even though the trailer showed this to us. So the real point that I wanted to get to is whether or not the Joy-Cons being used as a mouse is really the hook and the gimmick and the main next generation new feature to the Switch 2. Now, of course, it's too soon to know for sure because the April 2nd Direct is going to let us know all of these details. So maybe they're sitting on some other big secret surprise gimmick or feature to the console that we don't know about that's a way bigger deal than the mouse thing. But as of right now, just considering the Joy-Cons being able to be used as a mouse, I think that there is a chance that this is like the big gimmick. Like the big change from Switch 1 to Switch 2 is, you know, removing the IR sensor from the right Joy-Con on the current Switch that very few games used, and now making them act like a mouse. And it's not really a mind-blowing feature because, hello, mice exist for computers. We've been using them for decades. For gaming, we've been using them, first-person shooters, RTS games, any other game under the sun you want to play. I actually first played Skyrim back in 2011 on the PC, one of the few games I ever played on PC, and yeah, I was keyboard and mouse. And so even though it's not a first-person shooter, playing that game in first-person with a mouse was cool. I liked it. So that's what's interesting about this is, like, conceptually, just mouse-like controls for a video game, PC or console, isn't actually revolutionary. It's more a company like Nintendo taking standard controls, a controller. Well, the Joy-Cons aren't standard, but you know what I mean. They're dual analog, they have the same buttons on each side, they just split apart, right? So taking a standard controller layout and being able to convert it in real time from this to this, to this to this, that's a new feature, you could say, even though a mouse is not new to gaming. And so then the next part of this question is this enough of a new feature to maybe warrant the Switch 2 feeling more next generation and warrant the Switch 2 feeling like a different step in a new direction compared to the original Switch? And I think that you would be forgiven if you said no. I think a lot of people might say, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's kind of neat, whatever, but it's not a huge change to the Switch. It's not a huge revolution to video games. And in a lot of ways, I agree with you. For me, I'm kind of still leaning towards yes, it's enough, only because I'm assuming Nintendo has a lot of tricks up their sleeve on how they can utilize this idea well for at least some of their first-party games. Whether or not third parties take good use of it, we don't know. We've seen a lot of third parties have successes and failures trying to use Nintendo's gimmicks in the past. Whether you're talking about the Wii Remote Nunchuck or whether you're talking about the Wii U Gamepad, there are third parties that did great jobs with both of those controllers, but there are probably more third-party failures trying to use those than successes. So I want to go back to playing out some examples, and this, I talked about a lot of this in my last video, that one about Metroid and the mouse control. So if you saw that video, I'm kind of, reaffirming and continuing on with those same ideas, but I still want to go over them again because this is a whole new video. And so I think of a scenario where I wonder if you're meant to almost play, let's say you're playing a traditional game, not a mini game focused thing, but you're playing a Metroid game, a Zelda game, a Kirby game, a Grand Theft Auto game, just anything, right? And it's something like that you would play as if you're playing a normal controller, but you can use the mouse function for anything. Maybe it's not something you play the entire game with, but it's something that comes in and out during certain sections of the game. That might be a situation where, very similar to the Skyward Sword HD remaster on the Switch, you can play with the two Joy-Cons just separate. You know, they're not in the grip, and you're not using a Pro Controller. You're playing with 2 Joy-Cons like this, just separate, so your arms are completely independent, but you're playing the game. And again, I mentioned this in my last video, that's how I played the Skyward Sword Remaster on Switch. And I liked it quite a bit, because I liked the motion controls, and it worked pretty well. So maybe you're meant to play a game, like a Call of Duty, or a Metroid Prime 4, or again, something like an Elder Scrolls or a Grand Theft Auto. If you want to use the mouse controls, you're playing this way, and so you're just doing it like normal, but then when something comes up where it's like, oh, use the mouse real quick to, I don't know, pick this lock on a door. That's a great example of something. Or you need to open a car door for whatever reason, or I don't know. Just think of something. And so then you can just quickly take it and go like this, and suddenly you're doing the mouse control, oh, picking this lock, opening the trunk of this car, okay, and then I'm back, and then you're playing regular. So you can pretty quickly play like this, and then you go like this, do the thing, and then you're back and you're playing like a normal game again. I actually think that's a pretty exciting prospect for a game that uses the mouse controls, you know, sporadically. Not as like the fully featured actual way to play the whole game, but, you know, as events pop in and out, maybe you need to use it for something that, and they add more of like a contextual feel to whatever you're doing by making it play like a mouse. I think that that's a pretty cool concept. In fact, this is a great segue back to my Metroid conversation, because Metroid Prime 4, I can see using this mouse feature in 2 different ways. One is obviously playing the entire game like a first-person shooter with the keyboard and mouse, where you're using the left Joy-Con just in your hand like normal, and you are always using the right Joy-Con like a mouse on a desk or a table or something. And you know, I spent most of that I spent a lot of that video talking about how I love the idea, but I'm nervous about how to play that comfortably sitting on a couch, leaning back with my feet up on a footrest. You know, I'm not going to buy a desk that like has to sit in front of the couch and I have to lean forward to use. I don't want to use my coffee table. You know, how do you do this? We don't know. But let's forget that part of it. So you can play it like a first-person shooter with a Joy-Con and a mouse, and that could be freaking awesome, and I really want to try it no matter how they do it. But again, there is also the idea that I just laid out, where you play it like a normal game with 2 separate Joy-Cons, and only when you need to use something with a mouse-like feature, that's when you quickly take your right Joy-Con, you place it down on something, use it like a mouse to do whatever. And then when you're done with that, after 30 or 50 seconds, you pull your hand back up and you're just back to playing like normal. I will remind you that Metroid Prime 3 is a great example, actually has several examples throughout the game, if you know it well, of how this could work. Because Metroid Prime 3, that was the first and only game designed for the Wii Remote and Nunchuck, so not only did they use the pointer controls for just like movement and looking around, but you might be pushing numbers on a keypad. You might be pulling a lever down to activate something. You might have to pump something, so you have to push it back and forward a few times. Maybe you have to pull out something, give it a twist, and then push it back into a different shape. There's actually the soldering thing where you have to connect circuits with a little blowtorch feature. And all of those are motion-controlled little things where you're using the Wii Remote to do something like that. These are the kinds of thing Metroid Prime 4, or really any other game that wants to, but we'll focus on Metroid Prime 4, it could have a ton of different little like mechanisms that you have to operate this way. And sure, you could probably do it with a regular Pro Controller with a few button prompts. But if you are playing with the mouse controls, maybe you can, as you come up and need to pull a lever, you quickly put your hand down, use the mouse to do it in some way, and then you pick it back up again and you're good to go. To me, that is super cool, and I like that idea, and I really want to see how they incorporate that into Metroid Prime 4. You know, I want to try all these different versions of playing Metroid just to see how it works with a full mouse and keyboard, because I'm just assuming you can do that, how it would be to play with 2 Joy-Cons and then mouse this and that, you know, as need be. I feel like the next 3D Mario game is the kind of thing that will have a ton of little interspersed sporadic moments too, where you can take the Joy-Con and then use it as a mouse and pick it back up. So I start to think about how Nintendo is going to take this idea and really run with it, at least for their first-party games, and I think it could be really cool. And then I also think about how they're more than likely going to use this for a lot of their goofier games, their mini-game compilation type things, and stuff like that. So, absolutely, I'm putting 100% assurity on this. There will be a Mario Party game made for the Switch 2 that will use a ton of little mini game things with the mouse, right? So that's already like a given. And if they do things like Mario and Sonic at the Olympics, if they do thing like a Switch 2 Sports or a Wii Sports kind of a thing, there was another one, or like another 1-2 Switch kind of a game, another Nintendo Land kind of a game. Those things that Nintendo likes to make occasionally, maybe some different version of like a Ring Fit that maybe isn't a Ring Fit, but it's like a sequel to that relies on the mouse thing. Those kinds of gimmicky sort of games that Nintendo likes to make, or the minigame, party game things like a Mario Party, they're going to make a ton of those. WarioWare is another obvious one. They're going to make a lot of those games where you got the mouse thing going on. Oh, Splatoon. I'm just now realizing that Splatoon 4, which we know they're going to make on the Switch 2, that's going to have a lot of different ways to use the mouse functionality as well. So, you know, I said this also on that last video. All of the minigame things, your WarioWares and your Mario Parties and your Switch Sports, those aren't my kinds of games. I know they're popular and they're really well made. They just don't appeal to me. So I'm not going to be playing those kinds of games with the mouse controls. But they will make those kinds of games to support the mouse controls for the Joy-Con. And so I know a lot of you guys do like games like that. So you're probably going to get some really cool gameplay and features out of this kind of stuff. Also, this has been brought up many times. Mario Maker, I think a Mario Maker 3 is probably guaranteed on the Switch 2. And with the mouse controls, you know, we don't have the dual screen gamepad touchscreen thing that worked so well for the first game. I'm not really a Mario Maker fan. I didn't really care for the first one. I have it, but I didn't care for it. However, hugely popular, hugely successful. I know a ton of people like making levels in that game. So they absolutely should make a Mario Maker, or even if they do something like a Zelda Maker. And yeah, if they do, they're going to be using the mouse control for the Joy-Con for that as well, so you guys, I'm sure, can look forward to that. And then there's the other obvious one that everyone and their mother has talked about, which is Mario Paint. How could they possibly go an entire Switch 2 generation, introduce these mouse-controlled Joy-Con things, and then not make a new Mario Paint? You know, the first game, the only game, it was a Super Nintendo game released back in the day. Very cool that they made it for the Super Nintendo, and you guys know I was weaned on the 8 and 16-bit generation, so I never really cared for Mario Paint. I would not buy a new Mario Paint, but it was really cool that they made it, and I had a friend who had it, and it was like neat. And yeah, if they make a new Mario Paint, get out of here. That thing will sell like crazy, especially if it's good. It's going to sell like crazy, and everyone's going to love these darn mouse-controlled Joy-Con things, and I think that it's an obvious thing that we can all expect. So, obviously a lot of thoughts here, because to me this is an exciting prospect. It's the kind of gimmicky thing that Nintendo may not utilize properly, and it becomes something that ends up being a little bit of a bust, like the IR sensor on the current Switch. I know that a few games use it, Labo and Ring Fit and all that stuff, but like, let's be real, it's not really a prominently featured thing for anything. And I don't know if a single third-party game used it. Maybe a few indies did, but I wouldn't know. So at the end of the day, I think the IR sensor, we can call it a bust. It wasn't really used very well for the Switch. So maybe the mouse thing for the Switch 2 becomes the same, but I hope it doesn't. I kind of want to believe it won't, because it lends itself to a more hardcore gaming appeal. And I think that, yes, you're going to get Nintendo and other companies making gimmicky little minigame and party game compilations that use it, but hopefully we get Nintendo doing stuff like Metroid Prime 4 and a 3D Mario and a Splatoon that uses the mouse controls, and hopefully we get, you know, Call of Duty, which we know will come to the Switch 2. Hopefully that uses it for first-person shooter controls. And hopefully, if we get games like Monster Hunter and Elder Scrolls and Grand Theft Auto and a ton of other whatever you can think of, Doom, hello, Doom the Dark Ages, we get those kind of games. Hopefully those companies also realize, hey, we already make our games to work with a mouse and keyboard on PCs anyway. We're bringing it to the Switch 2. The Switch 2 comes with a mouse right out of the box with the Joy-Cons, so let's make sure we carry this gameplay style over to the Switch 2 console version. Hopefully that's the true potential of the mouse Joy-Con thing. And so I'll end to say, once again, playing video games with a mouse, whether it's a regular computer mouse or a Joy-Con mouse, is not truly a revolutionary thing, But it is cool to know Nintendo's next generation console is coming with this concept out of the box. A Joy-Con is different than a traditional mouse because it's got face buttons, A, B, X, Y, and it's got the analog stick. And so if they're doing something cool with that feature that somehow makes it even more in-depth than just a regular old mouse, there's some cool potential there, man. And I will say this too. I mentioned earlier, I want to mention it again at the end. I think it's also contingent on the Joy-Cons, or the analog sticks on the Joy-Cons being better quality, having better range and smoother feel than the current Joy-Cons. Because for all of us who've tested a current Joy-Con, just to put it face down and be like, how would this feel if it was bigger? Okay, I've got, I do this, and my thumb rests naturally on the analog stick. But the analog stick sucks. What am I going to do with it face down? It's kind of awkward. Doesn't feel like I can get a lot of accuracy with using it. If they make the analog sticks better quality on the Joy-Con 2's, then there's even more potential for this thing to really be something very cool. So, I've rambled on long enough about this. It's potentially the big feature of the Switch 2, so I think that's why I wanted to talk about it so much. First-party games, third-party games, mini-game collections. The sky is the limit if used properly for this feature. So I'm excited. I want to try it in Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. Let's frickin' go, Nintendo. Give me Metroid Prime mouse controls and make it work for sitting on a couch somehow. And so I'm excited. Let me know if you guys are excited too. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.